Hello, hello, hello. Test. Okay. We'll get started here in a couple of minutes. Apologies for my voice right now. Went to a wedding last night and I'm slightly hungover because I don't drink, and last night I did on a Sunday night like a fucking heathen. Um, yeah, we'll get started shortly. I kind of like these little percent sign frames. Maybe I'll start doing that. I've been changing it up, but all right, fuck it, we'll do it live. All right, so we'll start by looking at Dixie today. Um, Last week I was really, looking for a close below this zone, and I was really harping on the idea of waiting for closes and not trying to front run closes, right? Um, Around Thursday, this candle started looking like it was going to dump below here, but it closed a reversal setup called an SFP, or swing failure pattern, or sometimes it's just called, like a liquidity grab. But if you look really, really, really close, you see that I made a marginally lower low on this wick. And so the target of this reversal would be the next zone of like support slash resistance, which, would basically be here. So we'd be looking for a bounce on this thing to somewhere right here. So Dixie should be coming up on here, which is exactly what, I was like, just because I've been warning of this, but just because it's slamming into support, it doesn't mean it's going to break. And it could very well do this sort of thing and then break, or maybe it doesn't break at all and it makes a double bottom and it rallies, right? A lot of things on the table here. But one thing that I'm particularly skeptical of is this Bollinger Band setup. I was looking for an attachment to this lower band, and you can see quite clearly it did not happen, which, no surprise, is also the same as this macro resistance turn support. And why I'm particularly skeptical of this move downward is because a failure to move to the downside, especially when it breaks new lows, could yield, at minimum, a good bounce to the upside. And if it bounces to the upside, everything else is going to come down, right? So the fact that it had the opportunity to break low, the Bollinger Band said, okay, cool, conditions are ripe for a continuation to the downside, and it didn't take the opportunity. That's not a good sign, right? Or at least not immediately. That doesn't mean that it's just going to like immediately resume up only on the dollar, but a little bounce could go a long way in pulling back other markets. And that's actually supported with several other markets. So if you look at like S&P, for example, on the daily, you see this is about as textbook of an M top as you could ask for. You got the M top here. This is clean as clean can be. And the close on Friday actually confirmed the setup, because typically what you do is you have your swing high, your swing low, your second swing high, but it's inside the B bands. And then you would enter short traditionally on the red close here. And then you target the midline, and if the midline fails, then you'd be looking to the downside, the lower band. And that's right in line with what the weekly Dixie chart's showing here. So this thing could be setting up a good bounce to the upside. And when we look at things like cloud, it says it says trend is bearish, but if we get a bounce here, like this could easily re-enter into the cloud. Well, is it likely to re-enter the cloud? Most likely not, just because things don't tend to just like bounce and then break back through the cloud. Especially, there's a lot of momentum to the downside here. So I would be looking for at least a move to retest not only this zone right here, but the obvious cloud retest here, and maybe even a retest of the Kijun. But if we do get a close inside the cloud, when we have this like pinching of cloud activity here, cloud is basically just a visualization of support and resistance, right? So the thicker the cloud, the thicker the resistance or support, if you're coming from the upside. But the thicker the cloud from the underside, the bigger the resistance. And so if we get a bounce that kind of does like one of these, it's possible that this thing could pop through this little bottleneck here. And if it does, who knows? Maybe we retest the upper end of this channel. Maybe we begin a new uptrend. Who knows? But all I do know is when we look at the monthly chart, this doesn't look bearish. This looks like 10 years of consolidation. And now we're getting our first throwback here. And so far, we still have 11 days left on this thing. But so far, this looks like it's poised to bounce, right? We have the failure on the weekly to continue to the downside. If this thing closes like another bullish engulfing, these are all things that are stacking up to hint toward a bullish monthly close. We saw 2 attempts at this point to break through the support, and it just hasn't broken it yet. And when we look at things like cloud metrics, it's sitting on a logical mean reversion target on the Kijun. And in bull markets, when things retest the Kijun, that's kind of like the line in the sand there. It's like if it provides support, well, then maybe it continues upward. But there's nothing about this monthly chart that says bearish trend, right? And these are things that I look for when I look for a bullish bias in other markets. I want to see a bearish bias for a bull market, right? This was the 2017 bull market here. This was the 2020 bull market right here. Here's our last bear market. Here's our current, little short-term bull market. But if this thing bounces, you better bet your ass everything else is coming down. It's just I don't make the rules. It's just how it goes. Okay? So we need to watch this monthly close. Let me go ahead and make some notes here. So monthly, still 11 days until the close, but so far it looks like a retest of a decade-long breakout, right? Like this is, if we're being objective here, right? Not what we want to happen, but what it objectively looks like. I mean, like, let's flip this upside down. This is always a good test of your bias, right? Oops. This is always a good test of your bias. If you saw this chart, would you be looking for long exposure? Probably not, right? Yeah, and I didn't even notice this, but if we go even further back, like to the 90s, this level is crucial. Trademark, copyright, right? This is a very important level. If this thing bounces here, like this just looks objectively bearish, guys. Like this looks like a throwback, or maybe even if you want to call it a bear flag, it looks like a throwback to broken support. This was well-established support. It dipped below, broke above, support, and now we're retesting this thing. So, all that to say, if this thing does not break through here, I think a lot of people are going to get their feelings hurt. And if this thing gets a profound rejection, like maybe it retests the upper boundary of the upper boundary of this channel here. Oops. Upper boundary of this channel here. Yikes. Yikes, guys. That's going to be a big yikes for a lot of markets. Okay. So we need to pay close attention to this. So 11 days until the close. But so far, it looks like a retest of a decade-long breakout. Looking back all the way until the 90, all the way back into the 90. God, I can't type. Sorry, guys. I tried to rehydrate, but I'm hungover. All right, looking all the way back into the 90s, we see just how relevant the current level is. Right, so we can extend this even further back. So something like this. It's funny, I've stared at this chart a million times and I didn't even notice that it goes back to the 90s until literally just now. So that goes to show you, like, there's a lot of value in flipping charts upside down because you see things you didn't normally see. Let's label this so I don't forget it. Level established in 1990s. Go to the right. Let's say zone, not level. Boom. So, yeah, there you have it. So if we get a close on the monthly above this zone, which is a more liberal zone than this yellow guy, it's not going to be good. Let's say, oops, a close above the upper boundary of the zone. And we'll say 103, let's just say 103. 103 and some change. Would give a strong indication that a Dixie rally is in store. Note, Dixie up, everything else down. Again, I don't make the rules, man. I'm just reading them as I see it. And if we drill deeper, you know, exactly what I talked about on the weekly. So weekly had the opportunity to get a clean close on the lower band, and it did not, and it made a lower low. Had the opportunity to for a clean close that attaches to the lower band, and failed to do so. This is an early sign of a trend failure, right? We have very tight consolidated bands. The spring is loaded and is not going. Now, if the weekly somehow closes down here or something, like, then this is a different story. But right now, I'm just going off of what we have. We'll reassess on Wednesday if it gets a lower close. There was a marginally lower low in the form of an SFP that hints towards Should there be an S there? You guys tell me. That hints towards a liquidity grab and a potential reversal setup. The trend was, I'm going to make this note here, the trend was down, so the reversal would be to the upside. Okay. What else do we want to say here? Nothing, not a whole lot else to say. Daily chart. The hell is this thing? Daily chart is just kind of like sideways noise. Obviously Friday closed a bullish engulfing. But yeah. Okay. Not a whole lot else to say about Dixie. So let's go to Bitcoin. Okay, Bitcoin. So, again, this is why it's important to wait for closes, because there's a daily range. Let me get rid of some of this shit here. There's a daily range, or a daily zone that's formed by the prior range here, right? That's this green fella. And we get about as clean of a rejection as you could ask for. And we're currently seeing some red, right? This is an obvious spot to take profit on longs, an obvious place for macro shorts to enter. And yeah, like look at this clean rejection, right? And it comes on the heels of a ton of divergences, right? We have volumetric divergence. We have, well, the momentum isn't really diverging on the weekly. It's kind of flat, but nothing super crazy. But we do see momentum on the B band, divergence on the B bands, right? We see 3 highs. I guess you can even say 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. All lower highs. Boom, boom. Lower or equal, same shit. And of course, we're seeing this rejection. Okay. Ideally, it would have been nice to see a move to the upper B band that attaches, and it didn't do that at all. And even on the daily, this is total limp dick energy here. It had the opportunity. This was ideal. This is a perfect setup. Had a tight squeeze. Tried to attach to the upper band, and it just fell flat. It had a very, very short rally. And what's really interesting is the way I have I know a lot of people have their broadening wedges drawn differently. But I take it to the extremes, right? So I have it on the wicks. And what's interesting is it's still following this thing, even on the lower time frames. Look at this. Boom, boom. Now we're back below. It's not the kind of breakout you want to see on a 4-month consolidation, right? We don't want to see breakout hesitation. We want to see strong, healthy confidence of a push to the upside, and that's just not what we're seeing. There's just a total absence of volume here. This isn't even relatively low. It's absolutely low. It's low on an absolute value. Going back, this is one of the lowest chunks of volume Coinbase has seen in 2 years. All while people are getting, all hot and bothered about this move, and this just reeks of a bull trap. This has all the classic signs of a bull trap. Low volume on a prolonged consolidation, right? It has Dixie slamming into support. Like, these aren't the things that I want to be seeing for bullish confidence. This reeks of a bull trap to me. Yeah, so let's go ahead and make some notes here. Weekly. The volume on our third push is low, exceptionally low. And so what should be concerning, right, is not only is the breakout volume low, but this thing is easily getting pushed back. It's getting a rejection on like not much effort, right? So I use this analogy all the time, but like if we think of the market price action and volume in terms of like effort and result, the market is getting a huge result with very little effort in the face of upward momentum. And what that says is that there's not a whole lot of buyers here. Buyers are not stepping in. They weren't stepping in on the breakout. They're not stepping in on the rejection of this resistance. This is the early stage signs of bullish exhaustion and most likely a need to mean revert, right? So, and exceptionally low, and what do we want to say? The volume on our third push is exceptionally low and easily rejecting macro resistance with very little effort from the bears. Yeah, and again, when we look at the weekly B bands, it had a total failure to attach. Again, look at the weekly B bands. We see once again a failure to attach to the upper band. This is an early sign of a continuation failure. Because again, we want for a strong continuation, we want to see things like this, right? Where it's doing stuff like this, and it's not. Nothing about these pushes have been strong like that, right? Aside from this one impulse, which was mostly fueled by short liquidations, everything else about this has been pretty shaky and sketchy for the most part. So let's talk about mean reversion targets. If we do that, when we look at the weekly B bands, we see once again a failure to attach to the upper band. This is an early sign of continuation failure. Target equals B band's midline. This is I'll make a note. Where'd my hello? That was weird. Note. B band's targets are dynamic and not God damn it, not God damn it, and not absolute values. Currently 23.3 and subject to change. No, B-band targets are dynamic and not absolute values. Okay. What else do we want to say about the weekly? Yeah, we still have this edge to edge setup, but it is running into these obvious levels, and so this gets kind of sketchy, right? So if we overlay, let me get B bands on top of here. Where are B bands? Bollinger Bands? No, not %B. Bollinger Bands. So if we slap Bollinger Bands on here, oh, another gifted sub. Thanks, Nick. These colors suck. Sorry, let me do this real quick. All right, so if we look at the midline target, this gets kind of sketchy because let's clean this up. Sorry, I know this is a mess. So get rid of that. Get rid of that. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so we're looking at just B bands and just the physical cloud itself. If the market does mean revert and it spits out of this cloud, oh, that would be rough. That would be rough because that would confirm this cloud as resistance. And a lot of times when we do that, it tends to track this lower boundary. So here's some examples on like the daily when it's done something like that, where it tracks it, right? So here's an example here. Rejection here. It tracks it, then eventually, it breaks through. Here's another one. Gets rejected, tries to retest, boom, and it takes a running start to get through, but still doesn't clear it. There's some better ones in the past too. But you get the point, right? Here's a good one. Right? So if we do get a mean reversion on the weekly, it's not going to be. It's going to be kind of sketch. There is this obvious level that I think everyone and their mom is going to be watching to buy, which is the throwback to the neckline. And it also just happens to be the B-band's midline pretty much. By the time it gets down there, that midline will creep up to here. So if we do get a pullback, let's hope that it doesn't nuke through the cloud. And best case scenario is it comes down here, boom, maybe even tags the B-band midline, and just bounces from here, right? But what we definitely don't want to see is we don't want to see the market closing below here if it gets down there, right? We don't want to see it closing below this neckline, and we don't want to see it closing below this midline of the B-bands. That would be an indication that we're going to do some crazy shit that no one's going to be anticipating, and most likely going to stab much deeper than people are anticipating. But this is all up in the air right now, right? But it's better to be prepared and have a plan than just freak out and not have anything up your sleeve from if we do get a pullback, right? If we do mean revert to the B-band's midline, make sure to watch the weekly close. If it closes below the cloud, that would be a confirmed rejection of the edge to edge setup, and will most likely yield a stab much deeper than you are anticipating. Let's also say sub note here. Additionally, the obvious pullback target would be the Head and Shoulders bottom neckline, at 24.3, let's call it 24,300. Closing below this would be a very, very bad sign. Very bad sign, and an early indication that, what should we say? That shit's about to get real. Get real ugly. Real fast. And when I say ugly, I mean like sweeping this level ugly. You know, I mean like this kind of ugly. This is like worst case scenario, right? I'm not saying that like that's what I'm looking for, but I'm saying if it does close down here, that is what I'm looking for. Right now, this just looks business as usual. And especially if Dixie bounces here, like we don't have enough evidence to argue that it's going to like return up here. So it's better just to play with the trend and bet with the trend. And the safe bet would be, we'll just look for the B-Band's midline, right? B-Band's midline, neckline, throwback. It's best not to assume that all hell is going to break loose. Maybe one day it does, but your odds are best suited to look for something like this. Boom, boom. Right? Or maybe even like just consolidate. In my opinion, the best case scenario would be if we consolidate longer, because we can see the B bands are kind of like stretched out right now. So maybe we do something that's even that most people, like including myself, probably wouldn't expect, where we do this. Boom, boom, and we just kind of consolidate and then come up, right? And that gives the B bands an opportunity to collect themselves, and then we can like rally from there. I don't think a lot of people would be expecting that, to be honest with you. I think if it drops, everyone's gonna be like, oh, we're going to 15K, right? And if it bounces, people are like, oh, we're going to 100K. And in reality, it's gonna be somewhere in between, where it just kind of like ranges maybe, but TBD, right? But one thing is for sure, this looks like bullish exhaustion. Objectively, it is bullishly exhausted. All right. What else do we want to say? So if you want these show notes, go ahead and pop over to my Discord. I post them there after every stream, and you can get a copy of them there as well as recordings and stuff. So you know, if you're watching the stream, you don't feel the need to write this down or whatever. Like I post them after every stream, and you can grab them there. Yeah. Man, there's 50 people here and no one's saying shit. This is awkward. I'm just talking to myself. Do you guys have any questions about this? Or are you guys just passively listening? Like, what's going on here? Are people scared? Are people happy? People think I'm full of shit? Like, what? What's the deal? You're listening? I know, Nook. You're one of the good ones. Half asleep. Fair enough. Me too, man. All right, so yeah, there's not a whole lot more I can really say. So there is one thing that's, you know, if you're looking at like 4-hour stuff or hourly, we are kind of in this nice little channel, something like this. You know, something approximating like that. Let me get a cleaner chart for you guys. So, you know, it is in this ascending channel. An early warning sign of weakness here is if we take that out, right? This is a very obvious lower trend line that I think a lot of people are probably watching. So if this thing does nuke this, right, and it starts closing somewhere down here, gonna be looking for lower lows. Lower lows like relative to this stuff. Slowly getting sadder for my bearishness. Sorry, man. If you came here for, you know, for me to stroke your moon boy boner, you came to the wrong place. I mean, listen, there's a time and place for everything, but I'm not going to sugarcoat shit if I see it one way or the other. It is what it is, man. Could it range inside the cloud before breaking out based on the consolidation thesis? In past cycles, things seem to turn around for Bitcoin in September. So I am not a big fan of using things like, well, Bitcoin historically does this or Bitcoin historically does that, because there's only like a sample size of like 4, right? Like there haven't been a whole lot of macro cycles for Bitcoin. And almost every time we see a cycle, it looks slightly different than the last, and what people expect for it to happen, both bulls and bears, usually end up being wrong. So, but if we look back at the cloud, on the weekly, yeah, it is totally possible that that we just range, right? That's why I'm saying specifically watch for the close below the cloud. If it like perfect ideal scenario would be, we have something like this and it does this, right? That would be ideal, right? Well, I'm just saying what we don't want to happen is we don't want to see it closing below this guy, boom. And we definitely do not want to see this thing closing below the lower boundary of the cloud. But as long as it's in the cloud, like it's fine. It's no big deal. Looking for the weekly 28,140 liquidation level if possible. 28,000. 28,140. Yeah, it's basically like the impulse route here. Boom. This is always a good level, a good zone to watch. We got our first resubscribe from Fuzi. Passively following. Huh, I didn't get a notification. I just saw it in my mini feed. I wonder why that didn't pop up. Interesting. That's not good. Huh. Okay, well, thanks for the resubscribe. I'll have to look into that. That's not good. I appreciate not sugarcoating, just tired of the downs. But you're tired of the downs? What? It's like half a week of down and you're sad? Bro, get a grip. It's been up only for like the majority of this year. So many people with downs. I know, man. It's a real problem. 3 months of up can't take away the previous year and a half of crap. Correct. That sounds like someone who's being objective. I agree. So the other thing I want to point out here is this cloud. I'm not a big fan of this type of structure with daily. Well, it's not just limited to daily, but just this type of structure where we see Kijun and Tenkan very close together, because that means in even just a reasonable pullback we close below the Kijun, and that would be a sign that we're probably going to go retest this cloud, right? In general, we want to see pretty good distance between the Tenkan and the Kijun, and we want to see a thinner cloud. And examples of that would be, the obvious examples are here, right? Where we're sufficiently far away from the cloud. We see this stacked configuration, and both are trending. Anytime it starts to get really close together, things like this happen. Or things like this happen. I'm not picking that out because of this. I'm looking at this specifically. So that doesn't, looking at structure like this doesn't mean this by default. This is objectively a bullish trend. All I'm saying is that the possibility for it to close below this is wide open. And given that Dixie is bouncing off of macro support, that gives me a cause for concern here, right? And this is just the daily. This isn't like weekly or monthly. Anyway, sorry for giving you guys all downs. Didn't mean to do that. All right, so I don't have much more to say about Bitcoin. We can take a look at Ether because I know that's something that everyone tends to give a shit about. So with Ether, similar story. We are running into this zone. It did manage to close like slightly above it, so that's good. Areas to keep an eye out for is we definitely don't want to see a weekly close below here. But other than that, it looks okay, right? Like it has this edge-to-edge setup, which has a lot more juice left to squeeze. It's only like a third of the way there. And right now, Ether looks okay. Like it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look... it's definitely not macro bullish. And when I say macro, I mean like on a weekly time frame. Like it's quite clearly not this, right? This is bull. This is like mean reversion bull. That maybe it comes back down or maybe it breaks out. Like who knows? But this edge-to-edge setup is valid. It's good. The close looked good too. On Ether, did not reject this zone. That's good. So as long as the weekly doesn't close back below this white line I have here, which is the neckline of this Adam and Eve double bottom, this thing looks ripe for a good leg up. So there's some ups for you, for all you sad boys out there. Also, it's just this massive Adam and Eve double bottom, right? Which it's just now starting to break out of. 1,150 to the upside. So still got some juice left to squeeze. And easy invalidation too, right? So if you're trading spot, it's like, okay, you just buy long, and if you stay long unless you get a close below this line, and then if it closes below the line, you get out and you cut your losses, right? All right, so question, what's your playbook for those of us patiently waiting for a long entry? Thoughts on position sizing? Are you talking about for Ether or just in general? Like what are you asking? In general? So here, all right. So here's my take on this. Okay, I have a pretty basic game plan and set of criteria for, and I'll write this down in the notes. My long criteria. So, is Dixie? It for me, it all starts with Dixie. This is why I start every stream like this. Basically, what I do when I do my streams, I'm running you through the train of thought and the order of thoughts and logical conclusions that I make personally. Like these are like I'm walking through the stream basically as a stream of consciousness of how I look at the markets, and this is how I look at it every time. Okay, so first of all, I always look at Dixie. Is Dixie bullish or bearish? Right? We can look at this as like a flow chart. If Dixie is bullish, Bitcoin spot holds are off the table. B. If Dixie, the fuck was that? Whoa, that was weird. What the hell? If Dixie is bullish, Bitcoin spot longs are off the table. B. If Dixie is bearish, we look for spot long holds. Okay? So now we can break up these two categories into greater and greater detail. So if Dixie's bullish, spot longs are off the table. End of story. Dixie bullish bias is defined by both weekly / monthly structure and trend metrics such as Ichimoku cloud and B-bands. Are we bouncing off of support? If yes, this is bullish. Are we trending objectively? Trending upwards? If yes, this is bullish. Okay? Not trying to insult your intelligence here, but this is, sometimes it helps to see it just listed out, right? Okay, so questions. Would you comment on some fundamentals about Dixie, or do you stick to technicals 100%? I look at technicals 100% of the time. I do not care about fundamentals whatsoever. I mean, unless it's something like, and unless it's something fundamental wise that's going to inject uncertainty or some sort of volatility or chaos or something like that, then I'll take that into account. But it's very hard. I know there are plenty of people that trade off of fundamentals alone, and that's cool. Like if that's your thing, like more power to you, right? Like that's fine. But for me and my engineering brain, I need to have objective things that I can look to and say, am I biased or not? If so, what is the evidence of that, right? Okay, so let's talk about Dixie bearishness. If Dixie is bearish, all right, so what's the bearish counterpart here? So Dixie bullish bias is defined by both, okay, Dixie bearish bias is defined by both weekly / monthly structure and trend metrics. Are we running into macro resistance? If yes, this is bearish. Are we objectively trending downward. Downloads, Jesus Christ. Downwards. If yes, this is bearish. Right? Now, this is where you can start to kind of meta this thing, right? So if you have an objectively bearish trend, but it's running into mean reversion things. So let's look at some examples of that. Right? So here's an example. Oh, whoops. All right, so here we have a weekly chart, right? We see a very clear level of interest, zone of interest here, right? This red band, this red fellow right here. If the market's running into something like this and rejecting it, right? And if we can slap something like B bands on here, and we see something like this, right? This thing has very clearly rejected this level. We see consolidation. And now we see the market move down to this lower band, thus indicating not only a rejection of resistance, but the beginning of a new trend. This here is like long territory for whatever asset you're looking for. You're looking for equities exposure. You're looking for crypto exposure, whatever. All of this is the A-OK to do so because we've run into resistance. And if we look at something like the monthly, for example, it too is doing the same thing. It had a failed upward continuation, right? We had a squeeze, boom. Big ass bearish engulfing, and ran all the way down, right, the end. Same thing here. Boom. All the way down. Now, where we want to be super cautious is with things like this. This was a strong bull market in Dixie, and it took down everything. This was the whole bear market from last year, was this whole thing, right? So when we see things like this, objectively, if I'm thinking in the mind of a bull, like this is what I want to see for a continuation of the upside. It's retesting this midline, not closing below it, sitting on support. These are all things that I would look for if I was a bull. So if I'm bullish dollar, I'm bearish everything else by default. You know, there's some nuance in there, but for the most part, that's just how it plays out, right? Yeah. So what else do we want to say? If we are bearish trending downwards, yes, this is bearish. If we have confirmed a bearish bias, we can use tools like Ichimoku/B-bands to time long entries on other assets. So what do I mean by that, right? If we look at the weekly and we slap Ichimoku Cloud on here, let me clean some of this up. EMA, nope, EMA off. So let's go back in time. Let's time travel a little bit, right? If we go back in time, and I'm thinking, let's go back even further. Can I step back further? Let's say it's here. Oops. So, okay, you're bullish, you're bullish crypto, right? This whole thing has come about in the form of a massive bull market. This bounce here, I'm going to show you. We're going to go back in time. So this was September 2017. Just so you know, I'm not making shit up. September. Where are we at? September 2017. Ba-blam. Okay. This pullback, which happened on, it topped out on the Saturday, so it's not going to be, we'll look at the next Monday. Monday the 4th, September 2017. Monday the 4th, September 2017, Dixie bottoms and bounces. And this gives way to a massive correction. This doesn't look massive, but it is. It's a very big correction. I remember this. 40%. 40%. This, like, in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't look big. But at that time, the fucking sky was falling down. 40%, that's huge. And that happened in 2 weeks, basically. Okay? So if you're a Bitcoin bull and the market is shitting its brains out, you look to Dixie and you say, okay, well, where is this thing going to stop? Like, where does the pain end? And as we look through time, right, logical mean reversion targets tell us to look for the B-Band's midline and the Ichimoku Kijun, which is this red fellow right here. Boom. So as we step through time, right, we see, oh, it's starting to hit the Kijun. What's it going to do? We watch this thing. We watch it. It closed a rejection. Not only did it close a rejection, but it closed a bearish engulfing. And this thing is objectively bearish. So this tells us the odds are this is it mean reverted. It hit its target. If we slap B-bands on here, it's not looking like it's not a bullish continuation. Or I'm sorry, a bullish reversal, right? It's not doing something like this where it's attaching to the upper bands. It's kind of just floating in this space right here. So this tells us this is likely just a mean reversion. And as we step through time, it proves to be the case, right? So we just keep going. Boom, right? So let's look at the dates here, just so I can prove I'm not making shit up. Monday the 6th, November 2017. Okay? Monday the 6th, November 2017 is here. Okay, so let's step through time. Sure enough, stop. Didn't want it to do that. Sure enough, this top coincides with this bottom. Right? Thursday, February 17. You know, it's not going to be an exact timing of the bottom, but it's like within striking distance, right? So let's look at the exact top. So exact top is October 30th. Where's October 30th? Oh, sorry, looking at the wrong spot. October 30th is, yeah, so it's already bounced. So all of that to say, you can use things like this on the dollar to say, okay, this thing bounced, it's kind of topped out. Where's it going next? You can use that to time your entries or take profits or whatever, right? Does all that make sense? I know I was jumping back and forth between the charts, but and I was using 2 different time frames, so it kind of looks confusing. I wish it would keep me in that spot. It's so annoying. So Monday the 11th, September 2017. Monday the 11th. Wait, what? Why are those 2 different days? Monday the 10th, Monday the 17th. Oh, fuck. I'm looking at the wrong days. Monday the 11th, 2017. Let's say Monday the 18th. Monday the 18th. Why? I'm so confused. Why is this showing 2 different days? Why are the dates different? That doesn't make any sense. Am I that hungover that I'm not seeing this correctly? I must be mixing up 2 different things. Either way, you guys get what I'm saying, right? Just nod yes if you get it. Shake your head no if you don't. I'll try to explain better. My brain is like mush right now. Sorry. Okay, so let's look at the notes. What else? If we have a confirmed bearish bias, we can use tools like Itchy to time long entries on other assets. For example, if Dixie bounces, we can use bearish mean reversion targets to time Bitcoin bottoms. We can even cross-reference bullish weakness on other assets to see bearish weakness on Dixie, thus timing relative tops. All right, hope that all makes sense. Okay. I'm drinking a ton of water, so I have to go pee. I'll be right back, and then we'll finish this up. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere without me. Okay, doke. We're back. I know that was a bit of a tangent on the Dixie, the long criteria and stuff like that, but this is how I look at things, and this is how I time whether or not I'm going to get long exposure on anything really. All right, so do you guys have any altcoins you want to look at? Then we'll bounce out of here, or if not, we'll end it early. Up to you guys. let's look at what you guys are saying. All right, so you. Yep, we've looked at this before. This looks like a massive head and shoulders. Boom, boom, boom. Sitting right at the neckline. This is not something I would be particularly interested in getting long on. Especially with the monthly B-bands looking like this. If this thing closes on that, this would be a fat short signal. And I would target this, honestly. Taking out this low here. It's a pretty hefty markdown. What is that? That's 73%. Yeah, this is a textbook head and shoulders. Like, doesn't get much more textbook than that. Do I think ARB has a good future? I have no fucking idea. I do not even look at low market cap anything, so I couldn't tell you. Like, if it doesn't have price history, I don't even look at it. LTC, I assume you mean the crypto? So Litecoin doesn't look bad. It's coming out of the squeeze on the daily, riding that upper band. It is coming into resistance right now. Here, boom, boom. Could be a source of hesitation going forward. Oh, also running into this shit down here. Yeah, this would be a sketchy point to start getting long exposure. I don't like running into resistance. Like, it's generally like you don't short support, you don't long resistance. And this is a no trade zone for me. OP. Right, let me see. Daily. Daily's kind of in this like little range thing. This looks like a distribution trading range to me. You see swelling volume into support. You see a pretty limp dick rally that makes a lower high. You see another one that makes a lower high. Boom, boom, boom. Unless this breaks market structure, I would operate under the assumption that this is a distribution trading range. Yeah, this looks sketch. It had a big run too. From the bottom to the top. Holy God, 266%. So, would not surprise me if this was a distribution. I don't know anything about this coin, but that's just what I see. Short to 0.88. Pretty much, yeah. That's what I would look for. I would look for it to come take out this low. Somewhere down here. Yeah. All right, any other ones? Any other tickers you guys want to look at? I'll update you guys on some of the equity stuff I'm looking at. Um, so because dollar is bouncing, I know this isn't equities, this is metals, but gold is seeing a little bit of a pullback. But yesterday, last week, it closed is that true? Yes. No, actually it isn't. Almost did. It almost closed an all-time high. Almost. It just barely did not. But I'm very bullish on gold. I think gold's going to do very well over the next 5 to 6 years. And I think it's about to enter into a bull market. Like a macro bull market, like a 5 to 10 year bull market. Looking at NASDAQ, it looks good, in my opinion. It looks good, but I want to see it get through this cloud, really, on the weekly. The dailies, like, obviously bullish. There's this C-clamp setup that's just begging to get mean reverted on. So if you're looking to get long on QQQ, this is the zone to do it, right at 303.4, right? It's the weekly midline, I think. No, just weekly midline's below that. But this would be an obvious level to watch for. And yeah, you see similar things on S&P as well. We got this daily perfect textbook daily M top. If you look at the weekly, it's breaking these little downtrends, like however you want to draw them. It's starting to break them. But, it closed outside the cloud. Interesting. I didn't even notice that until now. I thought I checked this. I guess not. This is technically outside the cloud now. Cool. And this is a weekly chart, right? So this is looking promising, especially with this Kumo twist right here. The only thing I would like to see better to improve the bullish momentum right now is to get the Tenkan and the Kijun climbing out of here, which it's not going to do anytime soon. Other than that, weekly doesn't look bad. We got a good squeeze here. So what I would like to see on the weekly is a move to this upper band that attaches. Otherwise, it's going to be a dud and most likely retest this thing, this midline. Still watching this Costco chart. I have pretty high hopes for this. It looks like a giant, like you can skew it to be like a kind of like a pennant thing, but I'm not a fan of these equal lows. Equal lows, when they bounce like this, tend to be a sign of buyer exhaustion. And if this thing snaps this thing to the downside because of how consolidated it is, this could get pretty ugly pretty quick. So I'd rather wait for it to move up and confirm a bullish move to the upside of this band. So if this thing consolidates, or doesn't consolidate, whatever, and it moves up and closes on this upper band, that's a huge long signal for me. Look how consolidated this is. The monthly B bands it looks like a giant flag, right? Costco is just an animal anyway. I'd be surprised if Costco goes into a macro bear market. Like, everyone loves Costco, right? They have like free hot dogs and shit. Or basically free. Aren't they like $1.40 or something like that? Like, God knows what kind of meat they're made out of, but they're delicious as hell. Still watching this UBS chart. I'm very bullish on a long time scale. This is in a huge trading range. This is the people that bought Credit Suisse But there's a humongo edge to edge set up on the 3-month chart. Just waiting for this trading range to break out. Hasn't done it yet. Like weekly would be good to watch. Monthly would be good. But I don't feel comfortable buying into this 200 EMA. If it can get a monthly close back above this trading range, that'd be huge. It had this humongous shakeout here. So if it continues upward from here, that'd be dope. It's like a 150% move to the upside of the 3-month cloud. Or 137.23, excuse me. But either way, looks really, really, really promising. Like this trading range is textbook accumulation stuff, right? We see this take run of the high, the shakeout of the low, strong bounce off of here. We see this monthly shakeout, and it just bought it right back up. Like this looks really, really promising. I just wouldn't feel comfortable buying the top of a range. I want to see it get out of here, and then we'd look for a huge upside potential. It should go up. They are firing tens of thousands of Credit Suisse employees. Yikes. Also watching Apple. Let's check on Apple. Apple looks like it was totally unaffected by the bear market. It just looks like sideways consolidation. It has this really obvious overhanging supply line. Sometimes simple is best. If we get a close above this, be really good. The B bands on the monthly are hyper consolidated, like super consolidated. I don't know if they've ever been this. The most consolidated they've been, with the exception of 1989. Okay, so any move out of here is going to be a monster move. It had the opportunity to begin a new downtrend, and it didn't. It bounced, closed above the midline. This thing looks ripe AF. Apple savings at 4% launched today for Apple card holders. Oh, no way, 4%. That's really good. But yeah, Apple looks like it's ready for a monster move. I mean, this was a total outlier in a field of just like blood in the tech sector. Apple just looked strong the whole time, basically just a massive bull flag. Intel still looking good on this Bollinger Band's W bottom. This midline just coming in fast. That's all. What's Microsoft look like? Every time I think of, you guys remember the movie Big Daddy with the Adam Sandler movie? Every time I think of Microsoft, I think of that scene when like the kid's holding the soup can and he's just like spiking it into the ground, and the girl walks up. She's like, "What is he doing?" And he goes, "Microsoft's down 10 points." And he's like, "We get dented cans half off," and he's like spiking dented soup cans into the ground. Anyway, that's what I was thinking of with Microsoft. Microsoft doesn't look too bad. Had a really good bounce off the lower B band. Dude, look how perfectly cylindrical this thing is. What a bro. Fucking powerhouse, dude. Microsoft is another animal. Their products kind of suck, but whatever. Yeah, if this thing gets a Kijun recross, This thing's fired up and ready to go. Oh, this also got a weekly breakout. This actually looks pretty good. So Microsoft, Microsoft also looks really good. Shit. I could see this thing potentially making this Head and Shoulders bottom though. Like if it does something like this, yoink. This would be that'd be really good. It'd basically be a throwback to the midline, the weekly B bands, something like that. I like this though. But again, if Dixie bounces, I'd look for a midline on Microsoft. Definitely don't want to see a monthly close back below this midline though. If it does, I would look for it to target this lower band. But that doesn't seem likely given the state of the other stuff. I would be more worried if it came up and took out this neckline here, like if it did this. But the fact that it hasn't taken out that high, maybe it comes down, retests the little midline. There's a little touch on the midline and bounces. Anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. Any other requests here? Otherwise, I'll wrap it up. We'll end on a high. We got 54 people here. For whatever reason, the last half of the stream is always bigger than the first half, which I guess could be worse. But I feel like most people are here for crypto, and I cover the crypto at first. So anyway, I'll go ahead and plug the Discord one more time. So Discord, the blam. Here you go. I post all my show notes there. I post charts. If you're interested in joining the trading group where we talk about actual trades and trade strategy and stuff like that, there's an application there. That is not free, but everything else is free. Like if you want the recordings, you want the show notes, all that stuff, you're more than welcome to have at it. Yeah. How is ADA look? All right, we'll do one more. How's Cardano looking? So Cardano does not look bad. I like this weekly close here. Close on the upper B band. We had after a squeeze, we see an expansion. So that looks good. Looks promising for a continuation. This looks like ass. Although I don't know what the scale is here. How far away is that? Okay, that's still 21%. So I would be really worried about this coming up and hitting the cloud and rejecting. Because this just looks like downtrend activity. Yeah, it doesn't look bad. But this looming stuff overhead would give me some pause about getting any macro exposure. Because it could just be, a temporary bounce, something like this. Goes back down. Also, isn't Cardano just like a total shitcoin anyway? Like, do they even have anything that would be newsworthy of pumping? I don't know. Whatever. Absolute trash. I mean, dude, here's the thing. Something can be absolute trash but still make you money. The only point I was making about the shitcoin comment was like who gives a fuck about it, right? Like it's not like it's Solana, right? People, even though it had a lot of negative news attached to it, like it still has some hype, right? Anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Um, yeah. Quick reminder, guys. On Wednesday, it will not be this stream, although I'll be hosting it. It will be the Justice League of Crypto with me, Jack, and Josh. I'll be hosting it here. We'll have the super stream at 2 o'clock Eastern time, same time as my normal stream, but we'll do it. Last time was on Jack's stream. This time it'll be on my stream, so I'll host it here. And yeah, be good times. It'll be a crispy sub-hour stream. So if you're looking for a lunch special while you work, we got you covered. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say. We'll update later on in the week. Maybe I'll post some tweets. I try to keep my noise to signal ratio fairly low, so I don't tweet a whole lot. But yeah, I'll catch you guys on Wednesday. If you have any questions, hit me up in Discord or Twitter. And yeah, stay safe out there.